Alright, what's up guys? It's Isaac here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, and today I have your pre-owned, that's right, a pre-owned 2024 Harley-Davidson Pan America Special. So right now, the only thing more beautiful than this motorcycle is this tree we're parked under. It's beautiful orange, beautiful fall day to show off this beautiful motorcycle. So this is a 2024 Harley-Davidson Pan America Special. Basically meaning it's a liquid-cooled V-twin Harley-Davidson ready to rock and roll. These bikes are so much fun. Easily one of my favorite bikes here at the dealership. This one is pre-owned. It's only got 1,000 miles on it too. And so it's just barely broken in, itching for a new rider to go tear up the streets with. Now, a couple cool things happened for 2024. Now, at least the Pan America, it's been around for a few years now. It was introduced in 21, and it received some big upgrades for 2024. It received a bigger battery, an updated charging system, and some new graphics. So you still have that Harley-Davidson logo here on the tank, that split between the tank and this front fender, or front fairing piece, cowl thing. But now you have the little 1250 insignia down here, and then you have this sort of like topographic style map right here that kind of fades into black, or fades into whatever color the tank is. Now this is the vivid black version. There's a lot of different colors this year, which we'll talk about on the ride. But we'll go ahead and kind of point out the biggest things that we're seeing on this bike. So of course, it is the dual sport style, or at least this is more adventure touring than dual sport. So it's made for going much longer distances, a lot of road and a lot of off-road, but a little bit more well-maintained. Is it true dual sport? No, not quite. It's a little bit too big for that, but it is very capable pretty much wherever you might put it. So let's just kind of see around it before we go ride it. So this is the spoked wheel option. There are two wheel options still, either cast or the spokes. The spokes are a little bit stiffer, a little bit better for that off-road use, a lot of folks like. But you'll see it's Brembo brakes all the way around, single on the rear, and then dual rotors up on the front. The Special does come with the crash bars, little engine guards right here. You've got that massive radiator right here. Biggest issue people have with these bikes is the location of the battery and where the charging system is. So you'll see that's actually tucked in right behind that skid plate. And then you do have some of the fins that are sticking out a little bit. So it's a really good spot to help keep it cool, but some folks, their concern is, how strong of a position is that? Well, for most of the riding this bike's going to be doing, it's okay. Now, if you're trying to hop logs with it, that's where the issue comes in. You'll need that beefier skid plate for sure. But there's so much customization you can do on this bike, and from the stock bike, so much you can do to really get it fine-tuned. I mean, there's the ride modes, which we'll talk about here in a minute. The windshield's adjustable. You can flip this around to get a little bit better angle. You can take the rubber pad off so you can get better grip on the foot pegs if you want. It is set up for both a rider and a passenger, and they handle really well with passengers on them too still. You've got the flip down little foot pegs right there, and they can hop up and take a seat here. Now, a couple cool little things too. Another thing where people's biggest issue with this bike is the height. Now this one does have the ARH, or the adaptive ride height system. So as you can actually set it, so as you come to a stop, it'll actually lower itself down for you, which we'll play around with some of the settings here in just a moment. But there's just so many good things on this bike. I mean, when people say, a bike has everything, or, pretty much anything you could want on it, this is a bike that really shines in that area. Now, a couple cool things about this is it is still kind of the keyless entry, so you have that little key fob there, which, so you don't have to stick a key in to turn every time. You just walk up, flip the switch, and go ahead and get it started. It's much slimmer than the ones we were seeing previously on the Softails and bikes like that, so it fits in the pocket a little bit better. And you do have a hard key compared to a soft key. So, which I guess maybe that's a soft key then. But so hard key, so you can lock your forks down there. You just have to turn them all the way to the left. And look at that, nice Olin steering dampener. That is stock. Now, other thing is actually to remove the seat and access your little storage area here. So you can actually stick the key under here, and very similar to how a lot of sport bikes are set up, you can actually turn that key and that will reduce that. Then you have this beautiful little pocket here to put your wallet, your registration, passport, first aid kit, little tool kit, things like that, you can all stick right there. Now another neat thing that you can do is then you can go ahead and remove the seat. So it just pops off like that, and you'll actually notice that there are 2 places to mount the seat to. So I can either lock it into this high position, or I can lock it in down here to that low position. So since I'm a little bit shorter, I prefer the lower seat option. And if you ever wonder what if your seat is, or which option your seat is currently in, easy way to tell is, let me get that lined up a little bit better. There we go. Easy way to tell is if you have this crease here. So if this crease is here, then that means your seat's in the low position. But if it sits a little more flush, then that means that your seat is in the high position. So all little things to keep in mind there, and I will remove that so I don't lose that on the ride. That'd be embarrassing. Also, continue to style the topographic. You do have that right there. So other than that, we will go ahead and show this thing off or get it started. So flip that switch right here, and I think it's in gear, so I will pull the clutch in and get it not in gear. Bike will do all its checks. Tap, fire right up. So welcome to the riding part of today's test, where we take the Pan America on a beautiful little scenic ride here. As beautiful as Raleigh can be. Raleigh actually has some pretty decent riding. Most of it is nice how you can kind of go to like different sides of Raleigh to get different types of riding. Like if you go to the south side of Raleigh, we are like this Lake Wheeler loop. It's a little more it's a little more like open farmland, country road kind of cruising. Whereas if you go more to the north, well, I guess more of on the then if you go on the west, or at least southwest side, it's a little more open, still more farmland, but it's a lot. Brother is sweating right now. Oh, this is a great place to talk about hill hold control. So I can hold that, look at that. Now I can take all my stuff, take my hands off the brake while I'm sitting here talking to you guys. So we got all those are great options. Southwest side, do all, 42, amazing. Go all through there. Some really good lake loops. More lake loops kind of in the northwest. Then the north side, it really gets a lot more hilly. You get a lot of great hills, a lot of great lakes to go rip around on. So it's kind of cool. You can kind of pick your riding based on which direction you go out of Raleigh. But this is the Pan America, and it's pretty much great at doing all of them. You find yourself on some gravel. Bike will handle itself very well out there. Oh, my favorite is surprise U-turns. I love watching a good surprise U-turn in Raleigh. But handles all that really well. And a lot of folks really call this motorcycle the multi-tool of motorcycles. And really it is, because it's a bike that is so good in so many different situations that it's fantastic. I mean, if you're looking at a bike that, you blast I-95 to, all right, let's throw this little ride in here for you. So you blast down I-95 to Daytona Bike Week. It's a sport touring bike, or you can run it like a sport tour. It's an adventure touring bike, no matter how paved your adventure is. I like that one. That was good. I might write that one down. So, if you're just going to be blasting I-95, it's a 5.6 gallon tank, excellent range, pretty good fuel economy too. So, go ahead, load up the bike and blast it down. Put the hard luggage on. Between the 2 big side cases and the top case, you can run it far. And with the passenger too, it's a pretty comfortable ride. Can do all that. That's not a bad ride. It handles it greatly. And then if you need more storage, you can bungee stuff to the top of those hard cases, or you can throw your duffel bag on your passenger pillion back there. Fantastic options. All right, so I-95, it's blasting down. Where you're gonna also, don't want as much wind on you. Go ahead, crank that windshield up a little bit. Better. Getting a little bit more of that wind off you, a little bit more protected. So, but it's a beautiful day, so I don't want to be as protected there then. So that is, so I-95 highway cruiser, mile buster, mile muncher. It is gonna handle that beautifully. All right, now you're doing the Daytona crawl there. it's liquid cooler. It's water. It's got water cooling. It's got a radiator and a fan, so it's going to be able to handle that stop and go, or stop and stop and stop, then go a little bit and then stop a lot more kind of traffic that you're going to get on the main drag of Daytona. It's going to get a little bit warm, but it's going to be able to regulate itself really well too. So it's going to do great there, and it's so nimble and light too. It's fantastic for that stuff. All right, so then, you know, okay, then you had a blast out there, time to hit some more miles. All right, you come up here, you hit Georgia, some scenic little Georgia loops, mountain riding, and then you get into this stuff where it's ready to rock and roll. Right? So beautiful, gorgeous, scenic riding, and a bike like this is going to handle all of it so well. This is where this bike shines so much, you know. These mountain curvy roads, you know, excellent power, great acceleration, great braking, and then you're right back on it. Excellent lean angle too, and the stock tires have a surprisingly good amount of traction too. You know, for not being true road tires. I mean, they're road tires, but for having a little bit more knob on them for a little bit off-road use, it's going to do great, right? So then, get out of your road mode, all right? Then, you know, you decide to go camp somewhere. Oh man, the campsite is a 5-mile gravel road to get to. All right, well, off-road mode handles, it's going to handle that also. Off-road mode, your suspension is going to handle it a lot more. I did not want to be behind a dump truck for this turn. Is this extra enough for you? Maybe if I mean, so much lean, I could just counter lean all the way through the turn. I'm going to ease up off this dump truck. Yeah, so I mean, it's going to do all that really well. It's going to handle you. Oh, he's going for it. All right, go ahead, buddy. So, you know, if I'm delivering mail. It's going to handle all of that beautifully. Yeah, so you're right, going to the campsite, long gravel road, off-road mode. It's gonna change your throttle input. It's gonna change your ABS. It's gonna change your suspension. All for things that are gonna help this bike handle itself better off-road. So you'll be able to rip it down there some, right? Or maybe take some shortcuts between different cities that are unpaved. You know. Now the limit of this bike's off-road capabilities really come down to the rider. Right? So this bike is definitely more road oriented with off-road capabilities. Now, if you're looking to go ride trails in the backwoods somewhere and do nothing but that, this bike might be a little bit much for that kind of stuff. Could you do it? Yeah, you could get away with it. You know, it is fun. I've heard it is a fun bike to go ride those trails and things on. It does really well on that. I'm going to run this back. It does all that really well. You know? So, it can do it. But, I mean, like more like very, very technical riding is what I'm talking about, where it's going to be a little bit trickier to do that kind of stuff with. Interesting. It's going to be a little bit trickier to do that kind of riding with because of its size. You know, it is only like, it's between 500 and 600 pounds, so, in running order, I want to say. So it's light compared to a lot of bikes, but I mean, it's still a little bit heavier than what you want to try to pick up in the mud. But then again, that's where really your rider's skill is going to come into play the most. How good of a rider you are in those conditions is going to dictate kind of how good this bike is. But with the ride modes and how you can set it up, it's very confidence inspiring for somebody that's learning that kind of riding. So, all very nice. Yeah, so this bike's handling there. And then these mountain roads, there's just not many places where this bike, that's a Janus. You don't see many of those around. I didn't know there was a second one in Raleigh. I know there's one guy who comes around the dealership every now and then, but I hadn't seen the second one this close before. Interesting. We're gonna hit a Yui up here in just a second. The tech is great on it. You know, I've said the ride modes 100 times so far in this video, but you've got great safety enhancements, and you have the cornering enhanced version of those safety features, which is really, really nice. Oh, I'm about to be one of those guys and pop a random U-turn. I can, though. I can do a U-turn here. I could do a U-turn right now. I'm not median. U-turn, yield to right turn. All right, is anybody turning right? Yes. Where's this guy going? Look at that. That handled that beautifully. We're gonna ease up, get some space between us and anyone else so we can hit those curves a little bit better. Oh yeah, so then, you know, 80-degree day like this, then it gets a little bit nippy at night. So what can I do? I can raise that windshield up, I can tuck in, because this bike does put off a little bit of heat. I can kind of, this bike would be fantastic in the winter. Great any time year round, but especially the winter. Because it dumps a lot of that heat on your legs too, it feels like. It's not terrible, but it does get warm, and that'd probably be kind of nice in the winter time. And I've got my heated grips right there too. Again, that's stock on the special. So I go ahead and hit that button, and go ahead and warm up my little hands here. So, you know, for like for, oh, and then, you know, a lot of folks have really talked about how great heated gear is, especially this time of year where the weather changes so much. You know, I could plan, you know, let me plan on doing a 2-hour ride around Raleigh or something like that, but then, you know, we end up 2 hours away from Raleigh. All right, and now it's turning night. All right, daylight today, it might be 80 degrees while we're riding, but then at night the sun starts to set. It can drop down to like 40, and that's gonna be kind of cold. So what can I do? Well, you know, with heated gear, it packs up really nicely. It packs up pretty light, and then you can turn it up. You know, put your little jacket on, and then hit the button a few times, and really, you know, and have like 4 different jackets all in that one. So that's a really great option. And the Pan America already has little hookups to plug your heated gear directly into. They are hidden right underneath the seat, so I can take the seat off, pull them out, and have them accessible. So, you know, there's no running any cable anywhere. This bike is already ready for you to plug into it. So, which, speaking of other plugins, if I want to mount my phone up here, there's a USB-C port right there on the right side of my little display. So that's a very nice little feature I have. That was also very nice. So, you know, I can mount my phone up there, but I can also, if I have the Harley-Davidson app, I can connect my phone to the bike through Bluetooth, and I can display my map display my route and that sort of thing up through that screen. So I don't think anyone has it set up for Apple CarPlay or anything like that yet. I'm sure there's somebody that's figured it out by now, but right now you do have to use that HD app to display all that stuff. So it is kind of cool. One pretty cool thing about the app is I can go into dinner, you know, like say I'm riding with some guys, we go in for lunch, and or gals, it could be guys and gals, we're all riding together, and you know, we're trying to figure out our route at lunch. I can sit there at lunch with the HD app and plan all that out, and I can get the route set up, and then when we come out to the bike, I can just go ahead and hook it up and have it all ready to go right there. I forgot how high that power band was and how hard that rips. Wow. That was only 7,000 RPMs. It has 2 more 1,000 RPMs before redline. So keep that in mind. These bikes have so much power. 150 horsepower is what these bikes have. So, and it's V-twin, so it's got some good torque too. not many bad places to be with this bike. This bike can really make anything pretty fun. Buddy, thank you. Man. It's just, this bike, the more you pull on that throttle, the harder it pulls, and it just keeps pulling and pulling. Let's do some finessing right here. Bike's lowered a little bit for me, but it's so beautiful. I really want to go that route. We'll keep the ride relatively short today, though. It has cruise control. It's an adventure touring bike, so cruise control, obviously. Oh, and the handguards, they come off pretty easy, or you can take them off pretty easy too, I think. So if you don't want them, but they are very nice to have right now. So you can wear a little bit thinner. So between the handguards and the heated grips, you can wear a little bit thinner gloves, giving you a little bit better dexterity for your colder rides. More beautiful scenic riding. And for the stock exhaust, this bike doesn't sound bad. You know, low idle, nice and quiet. You know, you won't really wake anybody up keeping it below 5,000 RPMs. But when you're screaming on this bike, it's a really good note. Like you really know you're doing something. And then you're watching that speed just climb. So you know, again, you know this bike is putting in some great work. So that is why it's one of my favorite bikes, because the power is so hard to beat. You know, it's so hard to beat. It keeps climbing off the line. You know, from a dig, the torque you're going to get out of, you know, a lot of your other more traditional Harleys, your big twins, that's going to be hard to compete with. But this bike's going to keep climbing, and it's really hard to outrun too. And the way the suspension is, you know, you come up to the curb and this bike just dip right on in and keep chasing that line. So I really like the little fuel door there. It just lifts up like a little hatch. It doesn't unscrew. You don't unscrew anything, so that's very nice. Looks kind of cool. If you don't like the black screen, you can press and hold the home button. Press and hold the home button, and it'll do that. If you press and hold the mode button, it'll put you into something like off. Like if you're in off-road mode, you do that. It'll put you in off-road plus mode, which is for folks that know what they're doing a little bit more, because it'll kind of more fully deactivate some ABS systems and really kind of deactivate most of the things on this bike. So you kind of have the full, you are doing the work there. There's not many rider aids or anything like that. It's everything you're doing, everything this bike's going to do is going to be dictated by your hands here. And we're going to throw it in sport mode now too. I'll show you what that looks like, because that was all road mode. We'll throw it in sport mode, which is going to stiffen the suspension a little bit too, and give me a little bit more responsive throttle control. So it's really nice to be able to do that and switch between those modes in somewhere like Raleigh where the roads change so much. So especially the suspension settings, you know, I can go cruise, I can fine tune things without getting off the bike or doing anything else besides hitting a button. You know, so if I've got, you know, if I'm cruising down, it just feels a little bit too spongy for me, I can throw it in sport mode, or I can get a custom setting with the sport suspension in it, switch to that, and that'll stiffen that ride up a little bit more. Then I can also do things like that, and I can do things like that, and wow, that does feel much. I feel a good bit more power right there. There's a slight delay with it with road mode, but with sport mode, it's all right there. Wow. Yeah, so you can do a lot of different things with it. So, you know, I can change the suspension settings. So, you know, for something like this, road mode wouldn't be bad at all. It'd be nice. It'd be kind of a little bit cozy. Switch into some of the riding we just did, put it in sport mode, stay a little bit more glued to the road. And then if I go and try to cut through one of these little side roads or go through downtown where it was horrendous, I can throw it in off-road mode or use the off-road suspension, and the bike will absorb it all a bit more. And if I need to absorb even more suspension or absorb even more impacts, then I can also stand up pretty easy on this bike. I'll show you that acceleration right quick. Let him get going. I'm going to do a quick little looky-loo. Second gear. It's just so easy. It's the Rev Max, and it loves to be revved out. It just does so good up there. Show cruise control. Let me turn it on, and I'll turn it down, and set to, and it'll show you what it's set to right there. One thing I also like about this bike, I like so many things about this bike, but the gear indicator, that's a big one. So on a lot of your other Milwaukee 8s, a lot of your Milwaukee 8s. This is a Rev Max 1250 motor, not a Milwaukee 8. On a lot of those, it will only show you your gear if the bike is in gear and going. But this bike will show it to you all the time. So I can see I'm in first gear. Typically you have to have the clutch out and all the way and have it engaged to see that gear. Whereas this one is instantaneous. So as soon as I have that clutch in and hit that gear, it immediately shows it. So for somebody who forgets what gear they're in sometimes, it's always nice. Yeah, you're kind of in curve, you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm in fourth. And it's like, oh nope, actually I'm in fifth. Let me go ahead and I need a little more power to get through this dig coming out of this turn. So let me go ahead and throw it in fourth. But see, a bike that, you know, handles and gets around so easily as this, it's so easy to be able to do that. You know, to be like, oh man, I need to get out of this situation that I am currently in. This bike will let you do that very nicely, very easily. Nice light bike, easy to whip around. That is your pre-owned bike of the week, the 2024 Harley-Davidson Pan America. Absolute blast to ride, so much power, everything's so much fun on this bike. If you hadn't ridden one of these bikes, it's really one that you got to. The previous gens, those are all fantastic. Those are all still a ton of fun to ride. But if you want the bigger battery and the upgraded charging system, then the special is going to be where that's at. So let's just see this bike one more time. But thank you guys so much for watching and for checking this bike out. And if you want to know more about this one or any other bikes here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, then stop by, come see us, give us a holler. So in the meantime, ride safe, and we hope to see you soon.